small village called Prosperity Valley, surrounded by vast green rice fields and towering mountains, lived a young man named Adrian. This village was like any other, simple, peaceful, and full of warm community spirit. But Adrian, he was different from the other young men in his village. From childhood, Adrian was known as a brilliant child. He was always at the top of his class, always had clever answers to every teacher's question, and always had brilliant ideas that amazed the villagers. The village chief often said, "Adrian will be somebody important someday. Just you wait and see." But there was one big problem. Adrian never finished what he started. Once, he planned to create a new irrigation system for the village's rice fields. He drew detailed designs, calculated costs, and even gathered several villagers to hear his presentation. Everyone was impressed. "Amazing, Adrian. This idea could double our harvest," praised Mr. Hansen, the village's oldest farmer. But the next day, when it was time to start working, Adrian didn't show up. "Tomorrow," he said. "Today, I still need to perfect the plan." That tomorrow never came. The irrigation project remained just drawings on paper, gathering dust in the corner of his house. It was the same with his other plans. He wanted to open a village library only. Got as far as collecting some old books. He wanted to teach village children about technology. Lasted only 1 week before he stopped. He wanted to create a cooperative to help the village economy. Only made it to the first meeting. The villagers began to whisper, "Adrian is smart, but it's a shame. Only good at talking, no results." Adrian had 2 close childhood friends, Ben and Sarah. The 3 of them always played together in the rice fields, swam in the river, and dreamed about the future under the old banyan tree in the village center. Ben wasn't a smart kid. He often struggled in school, his grades were mediocre, and he never had brilliant ideas like Adrian. But Ben had one strength. He always finished what he started. One day, Ben said, "I want to have a small stand by the village road, selling coffee and fritters to people passing by." Adrian laughed. "A coffee stand? That's too simple. Ben, you need to think bigger. Why not build a big restaurant with a modern concept?" But Ben shook his head. "I'm not smart like you, Adrian. I can only start small." And Ben started. The first day, he only made a simple wooden cart. The second day, he started selling 5 cups of coffee. The third day, he added fried bananas. His first customers were only 3 people, but he kept coming every day, opening his cart, serving with a smile. 5 years later, Ben's small stand had become a bustling establishment. He had a permanent building, 5 employees, and customers who came even from neighboring villages. Ben's coffee became people's favorite gathering place. Meanwhile, Adrian, he was still at home, with dozens of business plans that were never started. Sarah, their other friend, was also different. She wasn't as smart as Adrian, not as hard-working as Ben, but she had persistence. Sarah wanted to help the village women sell their handicrafts. "Adrian, you're good with technology. Can you teach me how to sell online?" Sarah asked one day. Adrian enthusiastically gave detailed explanations about e-commerce, marketplaces, digital marketing, social media, strategy, everything, complete and perfect. "Wow, that's complicated," Sarah said. "But okay, I'll try, little by little." Sarah didn't understand everything Adrian explained, but she did what she could. She created a simple social media account. Her product photos weren't perfect, just taken with a phone in front of her house. Her descriptions were short and simple, but she started posting 1 product every day. 3 years later, Sarah was managing a craft business involving 30 women from the village. Their products were shipped to various cities. Sarah didn't become wealthy, but she successfully helped many families' economies in her village. Adrian watched all this with mixed feelings. He was proud of his friends, but also hurt. Why could they, who were not as smart as him, succeed while he, with all his brilliant ideas, was still in the same place? One night, Adrian walked to the fields at the village's edge. He needed to clear his mind. The full moon illuminated the footpath between the fields with soft silver light. The sound of crickets filled the quiet night. At the field's end was a small hut. There lived Old Man Darren, an elderly grandfather nearly 80 years old. Old Man Darren was known as a wise man in the village, but he rarely left his home. He spent his days tending a small garden behind his hut. Adrian saw oil lamplight in the hut. Hesitantly, he knocked on the weathered wooden door. "Come in, son." Old Man Darren's voice came from inside, as if he already knew someone was coming. Adrian entered. The hut was very simple, just a mat, a low wooden table, and some modest furnishings. But what surprised Adrian was the small garden he saw through the back window. The garden was beautiful, full of vegetables, fruits, and blooming flowers. "Sit down, son. It seems something is weighing on your heart," said Old Man Darren, while pouring hot tea. And Adrian told his story. He shared everything about his plans that never materialized, about Ben and Sarah who had succeeded, about the shame and frustration he felt. Old Man Darren listened patiently while sipping his tea. When Adrian finished, the old man smiled gently. "Follow me for a moment," said Old Man Darren as he stood up. They walked to the small garden behind the hut. Under the moonlight, Adrian could see how neat the garden was. There were perfectly red tomatoes, shiny purple eggplants, abundant chilies, and various other plants growing lush. "So beautiful, Old Man Darren," Adrian praised. "You must have planned this garden very carefully." Old Man Darren laughed softly. "My plan was simple, son. I just wanted vegetables for daily meals. I never planned for this garden to be this good." Adrian was confused. "Look at this tomato." Old Man Darren pointed to a tomato plant full of fruit. "I planted this from a small seed. The first day, I just planted the seed. It didn't immediately become a plant. The second day, nothing yet. The third, fourth, fifth day, still nothing visible. But I kept watering every day. Not much. Just one ladle of water. Every single day." Old Man Darren walked to another plant. "This eggplant, this chili, all the same. I never had the perfect day to plant. Sometimes rain, sometimes scorching heat, sometimes I was sick. But I still came out, at least watering briefly. Little by little, day by. But if planned well, surely the results would be more optimal." "Old Man Darren," Adrian said. "Optimal? According to whom, son?" Old Man Darren looked at Adrian. "This garden is enough for me to eat every day, enough for me to share with neighbors, enough for me to enjoy seeing every morning. That's already optimal for me." Old Man Darren picked a chili from his garden. "Do you know how long this chili took from seed to become a chili I could pick? 3 months. But I didn't plant it thinking 3 months from now I'll harvest. Who's talk today. I water. Tomorrow, I water again. That's all. You, Adrian," Old Man Darren continued, "you're so busy imagining a big, shady tree that you forget to plant the seed. You're so busy drawing the perfect garden that you never pick up the—" "Ho!" Those words pierced Adrian right in the heart. "Lessons from the garden. Sit down. Son, let me tell you something," said Old Man Darren, as he sat on a large rock at the garden's edge. "Long ago, decades ago, I was like you too. I had many big dreams. I wanted vast fields, a big house, a big business. I spent years planning, calculating, imagining, but never starting. One day, my wife, God rest her soul, said, 'Dear, instead of planting 10 hectares of fields that don't exist, you'd better plant 1 tomato in our backyard.' I got angry. 1 tomato plant? That's too small! That doesn't match my ambitions." But my wife kept insisting. Finally, I planted that 1 tomato plant, just to make her happy. Every day, my wife reminded me to water it. I watered, reluctantly, but I still watered. 3 months later, that tomato plant bore fruit. Not many, maybe only 10 tomatoes. But when I picked that tomato, felt its weight in my hand, saw its bright red color, I felt something I had never felt from all my big plans. Pride from real results. Old Man Darren gazed far toward the moonlit fields. That day I realized Son, 10 real tomatoes are far more valuable than 1,000 tomatoes in a plan. Since then, I stopped making big plans. I only asked every morning, what's one small thing I can do today for this garden? Look, now, Old Man Darren opened his hands toward the garden. This garden didn't grow from a big plan, but from consistent, small actions. One seed today, one ladle of water tomorrow, pruning leaves. Next week, pulling weeds next month. Little by little, jour by jour, until it became like this. Adrian felt tears streaming down his cheeks. For the first time, he understood. Old Man Darren, Adrian said with a trembling voice. But what if small actions feel meaningless? What if it feels too slow? Old Man Darren smiled. Son, there's a Chinese bamboo that doesn't grow for 4 years. For years of just watering with nothing visible on the surface. But in the 5th year, suddenly it grows 25 meters tall in just 6 weeks. Did that tree grow in 6 weeks? No. It grew in 5 years. The first 4 years, it was building strong roots underground. Your small actions that feel meaningless are building roots. One day, when the roots are strong enough, you'll grow rapidly. But if you never start watering, there will never be roots, never be a tree. One night, Adrian walked to the fields at the village's edge. He needed to clear his mind. The next morning, Adrian woke up with a different feeling. He didn't immediately make big plans or lofty goals. He just took a small notebook and wrote, "Today, clean old irrigation equipment in the warehouse. Tate se all." No detailed plans about advanced irrigation systems. No complicated cost calculations. Just one small task. And it did. Italiano. He spent 2 hours cleaning equipment that had been dusty in the warehouse. Done. Not glamorous. Nobody praised him. But real. The next day, check water channel condition at Mr. Hansen's field. He spent 1 hour checking and noting its condition. Day by day. Small task after small task. Nothing exciting, but consistent. Mr. Hansen noticed. "Adrian, what have you been up to lately? You're often at the fields." "Just walking around, sir. Learning along the way," Adrian answered simply. 3 months later, Adrian had complete notes about irrigation conditions throughout the village fields. Not from a big plan, but from small daily observations. 6 months later, with those notes and help from several villagers, he began making small improvements, not creating a revolutionary new system. Just fixing what already existed. One channel today, one pipe next week. Little by little, a year later, the irrigation system in Prosperity Valley was much better. Harvests increased, water distributed more evenly, and Adrian never made big presentations or formal meetings. Ehus did it little by little, day by day. "Adrian has changed," said Mrs. Taylor, the new village head. "He used to just talk. Now he works." But what mattered most to Adrian wasn't that praise. What mattered most was the feeling he had every night before bed. The feeling that today he did something, however small it was. He no longer had to lie to himself that tomorrow will be different. 5 years after that night meeting with Old Man Darren, Adrian stood under the old banyan tree with Ben and Sarah. The three of them, like before, shared stories. "Remember when we used to talk here about our dreams?" Sarah said with a smile. "I remember," Ben answered. "You, Adrian, had the most dreams." Adrian smiled. "Yes, and you two actually made your dreams come true." "Hey, you two now, Adrian," said Sarah. "Your irrigation system succeeded. Now you're even a consultant for other villages." "It started from small things," Adrian said. "Very small. You know, I used to always underestimate small steps. I thought if it wasn't big, dramatic, spectacular, it meant nothing. I was wrong." "Old Man Darren taught you?" Ben asked. Adrian nodded. "He taught me that a beautiful garden doesn't grow from a perfect plan, but from one ladle of water every day. that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, that a big tree grows from a small seed consistently watered. The three of them gazed at the village that was now more prosperous. Ben's bustling stand, Sarah's growing craft group, the more productive fields. Thanks to the irrigation system, Adrian improved. But you know what Old Man Darren taught me most. Adrian, save, that we don't need to wait to feel ready to start. We don't need to wait for perfect conditions. We don't need to wait to have all the answers. We just need to start. From what's small, from what we can do today. Old Man Darren passed away 2 years after that night meeting with Adrian. He went peacefully in his sleep, with a smile on his face. In his simple will, he left his hut and garden to Adrian with one message. Take care of this garden, not because this garden is special, but because the process of caring for this garden will continue to teach you about life. Every day, one ladle of water. That's the secret to all success. Adrian cared for that garden with deep respect. Every morning, before doing other work, he watered that garden. One ladle of water for each plant. A simple ritual reminding him that great things are built from consistent small actions. And when young people in the village came to him with shining eyes and big plans, Adrian always brought them to that garden. Look at this garden, he said. It wasn't built in a day. It wasn't built with a perfect plan. It was built with one ladle of water every day, for decades. So too with your dreams. Start with one small action today. Tomorrow, one small action again. The day after, again. Don't stop. And one day, without realizing it, you'll have a beautiful garden. A message for you, perhaps you're like Adrian once, was full of brilliant ideas, full of big ambitions, full of detailed plans. But somehow, all of it remains only in your head, in journals, in dreams. Listentotis, you don't need to be perfect to start. You only need to start to become better. Like Old Man Darren watering his garden one ladle every day. Begin with one small action today. It doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. Write one paragraph of the book you want to write. Make one sketch of the business you want to start. Learn one new concept of the skill you want to master. Run one lap for the health you want to achieve. Because success, like Old Man Darren's garden, doesn't grow from a perfect plan. Success grows from one consistent ladle of water, day after day, week after week, year after year. So, what's the one ladle of water you'll pour today? Don't wait for tomorrow. Start now.